It was only a few years ago where I felt unhappy with what I saw in the mirror. And I know you're thinking, like, really, Naomi, but seriously, I was in a bad place. Mainly because I was out of my normal routine and I was thinking about others more than I thought about myself. And one day I thought to myself, Naomi, this has to change. Hello lovely people and welcome back to the Diary of Naomi. I am Naomi Robinson and this video is called the 4 Self-Love Practices that Transformed My Life. Welcome to a video that could completely change the way that you look at yourself and your life. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the 4 self-love practices that transformed my life. And the best part is they can transform your life too. I know a lot of you are thinking, self-love this, self-love that. Isn't self-love just a trendy buzzword? Or you're probably thinking, I don't have any time for all that fluffy stuff. But trust me, I get it. I used to think the same way too. But here's the thing. A few years ago, I was in a dark place and not many people knew this, but I was. I was constantly criticising myself. I was pushing myself to burnout. I was doing things for others, but not, taking care of myself. And I had this feeling that I was just never good enough. I was pouring out to others and helping them on their journey and pushing them, but then I wasn't doing the same for myself. And after a while I started to think to myself, this is not the way that life is supposed to be. This is not making me happy. And then something changed. I stumbled across self-love practices. And what I'm going to do today is share with you how I discovered them, how I went about implementing them, and the incredible changes I experienced as a result. But this isn't just about my story, it's about you too. Because I believe that the self-love practices that I use can be used for anybody. Anybody can use them and get great results. Imagine waking up feeling worthy, confident and happy about life. Picture yourself setting boundaries with ease, pursuing your dreams without that nagging self-doubt, and experiencing deeper, more fulfilling relationships, including the one with yourself. That's the power of self-love. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to tap into it. So are you ready to embark on this transformative journey? Because I hope you are, because it's going to be life-changing. I know you're probably thinking, oh, self-love. I always hear about this self-love, but trust me, it works. And you're going to be putting comments in my comments box saying, thank you, Naomi. So as usual, this video is broken down into 4 parts, which are embracing self-acceptance, cultivating self-compassion, setting boundaries for self-care, and practicing gratitude and self-love rituals. So let's dive into the first self-love practice, which is probably one of the most important ones and the one that transformed my life, and that is self-acceptance. So what I want you to do is to think back to a time when you looked in the mirror and all you saw was your flaws. Maybe it was that crooked tooth or the extra few pounds that you gained over Christmas, or that personality quirk that you're always trying to hide. I've been there and let me tell you, it's exhausting. For years, I was my own worst critique, and because I'm a person who kind of can step out and look really confident to people, that was far from the truth. I'd nitpick at every perceived flaw. I'd constantly compare myself to others and feel like I wasn't measuring up. The relentless self-criticism was like a heavyweight I carried around with me everywhere. It affected my relationships, my work, and most of all, my happiness. One day I woke up and I realised that all this self-judgment wasn't making me a better person. It was actually holding me back. And that's when I started my journey to self-acceptance. And here's what I learned. It's about acknowledging all parts of you, the good, the bad, and the in-between, and choosing to be okay with them. I'd start small, so what I'd do is each day I'd look in the mirror and find one thing that I loved about myself. At first it felt awkward and forced, but after a while it felt good and it became second nature. I started to see myself as a whole person and not just a collection of flaws. And the impact was profound. As I learned to accept myself, I noticed my confidence growing. I started doing things like speaking up more in meetings, pushing my career further, going for jobs that I'd never go for before. And I even started to approach relationships differently. And I can hear you asking why. And the reason was because I no longer feared rejection or judgment as much. After all, I had already accepted myself. But here's a game changer. Self-acceptance freed up so much mental energy. So much. Instead of constantly worrying about my imperfections, I could focus on growth, on pursuing my passions, on being present with loved ones. And I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that there's not days where self-doubt starts to creep in, because as humans, this is bound to happen. We have off days, we have hormonal days, so it's bound to happen. But the difference is now is that I have the tools to combat it. And I always remind myself that I'm worthy of love and respect exactly as I am. So here's a powerful exercise that helped me. Write a letter to yourself acknowledging your strengths, your struggles and your journey. And what you should do is read it when you're feeling low, as it's a powerful reminder of your inherent worth. Remember, you are uniquely you. Your quirks, your imperfections, they're all part of what makes you special. Never ever forget that, because sometimes in this world we can feel like we're just this little dot and that no one else cares about us. But whilst you care about yourself and you understand that, yeah, I do have flaws, I do have imperfections, but I love myself anyway, nothing can knock you down. Embracing your imperfection isn't just about self-love, it's about honouring your authentic self. So as you start this journey of self-acceptance, be patient with yourself. Remember, it's a practice, not a destination. Some days will be easier than others, and that's okay. The key is to keep showing up for yourself day after day, no matter what. So in the second part of this video, we're going to explore the next self-love practice that transformed my life. But firstly, I want you to reflect on this. What would change in your life if you fully accepted yourself exactly as you are now? And how would it feel to let go of the constant self-criticism? So now let's move on to part 2, which is cultivating self-compassion. So we spoke about self-acceptance, so now it's time to move on to cultivating self-compassion. So many of us, and even for myself up until recently, self-compassion is one of the hardest things to practice. We're often our own self-critique, saying things to ourselves that we would never ever say to one of our friends. But what if we could treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we offer to others? That's the power of self-compassion. So let me share a personal story with you. I remember a few years ago, I was working for a company and I missed a deadline, and that deadline cost the company a lot of money. It was a mistake, but at the end of the day, it cost the company a lot of money, and that's all they cared about. I was devastated, and my inner critique kicked in full effect. I was telling myself that I'm such a failure, I don't deserve the job, I'm so stupid, how could I have made such a silly mistake? I was really being horrible to myself, seriously. But then something shifted. I started to think, what would I say to a friend in this situation? Would I berate them? Would I tell them that they're worthless? Of course not. I'd offer them comfort, understanding. That's when I realised that I needed to start treating myself the way I'd treat a friend. So what I did was I took a deep breath and tried something different. I said to myself, this mistake doesn't define you. You're human and humans make mistakes. So what can you learn from this? It felt strange at first, almost unnatural, but it was so liberating. That moment was a turning point for me, and I started practicing self-compassion regularly, and the effects were profound. From there on, when I was faced with challenges or setbacks, instead of spiralling into self-criticism, I learned to respond with kindness and understanding, just like I do for a friend. This didn't only make me feel better, it made me more resilient, more willing to take risks, and ultimately more successful. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Won't being kind to myself make me complacent? Or don't I need to be hard to myself to improve? I used to think that too, but here's the truth. Self-compassion isn't about excuses or lowering your standards. It's about creating a supportive inner environment that allows you to learn, grow, and thrive. So how can you start to cultivate self-compassion in your life? Here are some practical tips that worked wonders for me. Number 1, practice mindful self-talk. Pay attention to your inner dialogue. When you notice self-criticism, pause and ask, would I say this to a friend? If not, rephrase it with kindness. Number 2, use compassionate touch. Place your hand on your heart or give yourself a hug when you're struggling. Physical touch releases oxytocin, the feel-good hormone. Number 3, write a self-compassion letter. When you're facing a difficult situation, write yourself a letter from the perspective of a compassionate friend. Number 4, develop a self-compassion mantra. Create a phrase that you can repeat during challenging moments. Mine is, this is a moment of suffering. Suffering is part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment. Number 5, practice self-care. Prioritise activities that nourish your mind, body and soul. Remember, self-care isn't selfish, it's essential. Remember, cultivating self-compassion is a journey. There will be days when it's easier and there will be days when it's hard. As we come to the end of this part of the video, I want you to reflect on this. How would your life change if you treated yourself with the same compassion you offer to others? And what would it feel like to have your own back no matter what? So now let's move on to part 3, which is setting boundaries for self-care. You guys should all know that setting boundaries is something that I really believe in and I will always talk about. Setting boundaries for self-care was a game changer for me and I'm so excited to share it with you. For the longest time, I was a classic people pleaser. And I wouldn't say that I constantly went out of my way to please people, but I had little elements of it. I'd say yes to every request. I'd take on more than I could handle. And I'd put everybody else's needs before my own. Does that sound familiar? I thought that being selfless made me a good person. But in reality, it left me burnt out, resentful, and unable to show up for anyone, including myself. Then I learned a powerful truth. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's an essential part of self-love and self-respect. It's about honouring your own needs and values, which ultimately allows you to show up more fully in your relationships and responsibilities. Let me share a personal story with you that really drove this home for me. I had a friend that used to constantly call me late at night to vent her issues, her troubles, her just everything. She used to phone me to vent late at night, nearly every single day. First of all, I thought that being a good friend meant that I always had to be available. But these late night calls were disrupting my sleep, affecting my work and draining my energy. One day I finally gathered the courage to set a boundary. I told her. I said to her, I care about you and I want to support you, but I need to sleep to function well. And what I said to her was, can we schedule regular check-ins during daytime hours? And to my surprise, she understood and she took it quite well. And the thing is, not only did our friendship survive, it actually improved. And the thing is, I was more present and energized during our conversations. And she learned to respect my time and needs. And what this experience taught me is that boundaries are not walls. They are guidelines that teach others how to treat us. And here's a beautiful thing. When we set boundaries, we give others the permission to do exactly the same. Setting boundaries had a profound impact on my relationships and my mental health. I found myself less stressed, more energized, and able to give from a place of abundance rather than depletion. My relationships became more authentic and balanced. And perhaps more importantly, I began to value and respect myself a lot more. And I know setting boundaries can feel so uncomfortable at first, especially if you're not used to it. So here are some practical tips to help you get started. Number 1, identify your limits. Reflect on what you can and can't tolerate in your relationships, your work life and personal life. What drains you and what energizes you? Ask yourself these questions. Number 2, be clear and direct. Begin with a boundary that feels manageable. As you build more confidence, you can tackle more challenging ones. Number 4, prepare for pushback. Some people might resist your new boundaries at first, especially if you're trying to set boundaries within your relationship. You might receive some pushback. But remember, this is normal and doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. Number 5, practice self-compassion. Setting boundaries can bring up feelings of guilt. Be kind to yourself through this process. And number 6, respect others' boundaries. Just as you want your own boundaries to be respected, make sure to honour others' limits too. Remember, setting boundaries is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. There may be times when you slip up or feel guilty, and that's okay. The key is to keep showing up for yourself day after day. So I want you to reflect on this. What areas of your life could benefit from clearer boundaries? How may your relationships and well-being improve if you honoured your own needs and limits more? Put a comment in the comment box below and let me know. So now let's move on to our fourth and final self-love practice, which is practicing gratitude and self-love rituals. This practice ties everything that we've learned together and truly elevates your self-love journey to the next level. And I know what some of you might be thinking. Gratitude, self-love rituals. That sounds a bit woo-woo. Trust me, a few years back when I first was introduced to this, I was thinking the same thing. But let me tell you, incorporating these practices into my daily life has been nothing short of revolutionary. So let's start with gratitude. For years I was in a cycle of always wanting more and focusing on what I lacked. It was so exhausting and it left me feeling unsatisfied. And then I stumbled upon this practice of gratitude and it literally changed my life. The thing is, I grew up in the church, so I remember when I used to go to church and my Sunday school teacher would say to us, gratitude check, and we used to say praise the Lord. But at that point I didn't really understand it, but now I understand it. So I started small, and what I used to do is just probably note 3 things a day that I was grateful for. And at first it felt kind of forced. I'd be sitting there thinking, what am I actually grateful for? And I'd write them down, but then I was just writing them down just for the sake of it. I don't feel like I felt the gratitude. I was just writing them down because I felt that, yeah, these are things that I should be giving thanks for. But as I kept at it, something magical happened. I began to notice little joys in my life. Like things like the warmth of sunlight on my face, a kind word from a stranger, or just like the comfort of a warm sweater on my skin when it's cold outside. My entire perspective shifted. And instead of always chasing the next thing, I appreciated what I had. And that included myself. And the thing is, the science backs this up as well. Studies have shown that practicing gratitude can increase your happiness, reduce depression, and even improve physical health. It's like a superpower for your well-being. So now let's talk about self-love rituals. These are intentional practices that reinforce your worth and nurture your relationships with yourself. These have been game changers for me in maintaining and deepening my self-love. One of my favourite self-love rituals is my good morning beautiful routine. Every morning I look in the mirror and say, good morning beautiful, I love you. I then list 3 things I appreciate about myself, and they can't all be about my appearance. I used to feel awkward at first doing it, I swear. It used to seem so weird looking at myself saying, I love you. But now it sets up a positive tone for my day. Another powerful ritual that I've incorporated into my life is weekly dates with myself. I set aside time to do something that I really enjoy, and it could be something as small as just reading in a cafe. This dedicated me time has been crucial in maintaining my self-care and reminding myself that I'm worthy of investing in. So how can you start incorporating gratitude and self-love routines into your life? Here are some practical suggestions. Number 1, gratitude journal. At the end of each day, write down 3 things that you are grateful for. Number 2, gratitude walk. Take a walk and notice all the things around you that you are grateful for. The trees, the sky, and even the ability to walk. Sometimes I sit down and I would just be like, thank you for the gift of taste. Thank you for the gift of walking. Thank you for the gift of hearing. Thank you for the gift of sight. Things like that. Number 3, appreciation list. Once a week, write down 10 things that you appreciate about yourself. Keep this list handy for when you need a boost. 4, morning affirmations. Start your day with positive affirmations that reinforce your worth and potential. Number 5, self-care Sundays. Dedicate 1 day a week to intentional self-care activities that nourish your mind, body and soul. Number 6, bedtime gratitude. Think of 3 good things that happen during the day, no matter how small they are. Remember, the key is consistency. These practices are the most powerful when done regularly. And don't worry if it feels a bit forced at first, because it will. I'm telling you it will. But that's normal. Keep it up and soon it will become a natural, cherished part of your routine. As we wrap up this final segment, I want you to reflect on this. How would your life change if you consistently practice gratitude and self-love rituals? How would it feel to start each day by appreciating yourself and your life? We've covered a lot in this video, from self-acceptance to self-compassion, setting boundaries, as well as gratitude and self-love rituals. These 4 practices have literally transformed my life, helping me cultivate a deep and nurturing relationship with myself. The thing is, our relationship with ourselves is the most important relationship. We have to start with ourselves. And I believe with all my heart that you can do the same. Remember, self-love is a journey, not a destination, just like with anything in life. There will be ups and there will be downs, and that is okay. The most important thing is to keep showing up for yourself day after day. Show yourself kindness, compassion, and appreciation. You deserve to love yourself fully and unconditionally. You deserve to treat yourself with kindness and respect. You deserve to honour your needs and to celebrate your unique qualities. And I believe that by incorporating these practices into your life, you can cultivate the deep, nurturing relationship with yourself that you deserve. Remember, you are worthy of love, especially your own. Your journey to self-love starts today. Are you ready to take the first step? I hope you are, because I'm here to take it with you. Don't forget to put a comment in the comment box below. If you want a one-to-one or consultation or help in incorporating these self-love practices into your life, send me a DM or email to naomi@thediaryofnaomi.co.uk. Don't forget to share this video with your friends, your family, your sister, your mum, your aunt, your cousin, your niece, your best friend. It's for all like-minded ladies. And the most important thing is to love thyself. And like I said, don't forget to like, comment and share this video. Bye for now. Mwah.